Hey everyone, I'm back again, and today I'm delivering a message that is going to tap into the deepest of all of the fears that every single one of us as human beings have in our lives, which is guiding and directing the course of our lives when left unchecked. I'm going to be diving into that key, right? We're going to go deep right into where it actually counts. And this is a message for all of you guys on every level. You know, whether or not you know the work that I do is all about accessing your limitless potential, right? It's not about settling in life. It's about discovering what inspires you authentically and totally aligning with a life that you're ultimately going to be proud of yourself for creating. All right. So I want to hear from you guys as usual. I'm doing this really early my time. It's still dark outside, but I've got such a busy day, particularly this morning, that I needed to make sure that I get on for you guys right now. So drop me a comment. Let me know if you're watching. Where are you tuning in from? And definitely I want to hear about, what is the one thing that you really want to create in your life? I want to hear your inspiration. I want to hear what's that one goal that you have. And if you don't have something that you're really inspired to move in the direction of or create in your life, let me know that too. All right. This is a space where we co-create, an authentic space where we share the successes, the struggles, we share all of it, our own personal experiences, so that we can actually help and support ourselves and each other towards accessing our potential. So today's no different. And I always love getting to connect with you guys. So this is going to be a powerful one. And I'm going to be talking about talent a little bit as well, because we can get caught up in this psychological trap of believing that we're only going to be successful, or those who are successful, it's down to, they've just got this natural talent, and that's why they can have the results that I want, and why I can't have the results. And I've been there too. I've fallen into this trap predominantly before I knew anything about personal development, and mainly when I was just at school, really. And didn't really think I was kind of just like across the board, just nothing really stood out for me. Like nothing really, I didn't feel like I had this innate talent anywhere. And I could look at other kids at school and I thought, they've got this amazing talent in music, or they've got this amazing talent over here. And I'm like, I just didn't get that. Right? And it wasn't until I got into personal development and realized, hang on a minute, like I can get to choose what I want to learn about. Like it's not just about school subjects, that's when everything ultimately started to fall into place for me. And I started getting really inspired, by what I wanted to do in my life. And basically this is what it's all about. So let's dive in. Can't wait to connect with you guys. So like I said, play along at home and I'll dive into the comments and check whatever you're kind of coming up with very shortly. But today's message is, it's not a question as to whether you're good enough. It's a question of, do you want it enough? All right. Now, the reason why I started this message today mentioning the deepest fear that every single one of us human beings has is basically, if you haven't heard this before, and I'm sure if you've been following some of my messages for a while, you've heard this. You're like, shut up, Vanessa. We've heard it before, right? But basically, the very deepest foundational fear that every single human being walking the face of the planet has, you, me, everybody you admire, everybody has, is that basically we're not good enough in some way, shape, or form. If you track all your fears and insecurities down, basically this is what it comes down to, right? You're not good enough. That's the fear. And if you're not good enough, it means you won't be loved. And if you're not loved, then you won't survive, right? But we're going to focus on the not good enough. And basically, that's where we get trapped in our lives. We fall into this pattern of just getting by, just settling for a life of mediocrity, because we think, I'm not good enough. Like, that person has talent and skill. And what about, Einstein? And what about, this amazing sports star? And what about, Tiger Woods or whatever? And, it's drummed into us that they're, a child prodigy, like, oh, they've got this natural talent. But there are some incredible books out there. There's been some incredible research done, which I'll give you the names of. Talent is Overrated by Jeff Colvin is a really good book, and also The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. But basically, there's a lot of amazing people out there who've been researching this for over 50 years or more, and basically coming up with the fact that it's not about you having talent that's going to make you successful. Practice always trumps talent. Right? So what it basically comes down to is, it's not that, oh, you're just born with these gifts and then, oh, well, that some people are born with gifts and other people aren't. What it basically comes down to is your life is about discovering the one thing that you would be absolutely inspired to create in your life. And with that level of inspiration, authentic inspiration, it's not coming from, societal conditions or expectations or what your mum and dad thought you should do or whatever. It's not coming from any external sources. It's ultimately derived from within your heart, your soul, like what you want your life to be about. When you can get clear on that and get directive with that, basically you will do what it needs to be done to become the kind of person who can create the kind of result that you're most inspired to create, because you want it bad enough. Most of us we haven't found the thing that, we want bad enough to trump our deepest fear of not being good enough. And the funny thing is, the paradoxical thing is that when you want it enough, you'll become good enough. Right? Because you'll be motivated, inspired to do whatever it takes to learn what you have to learn, do what you've got to do, break through what you've got to break through, and not listen to the judgments and opinions and criticisms from your external world that will prevent you from moving forward, because that stuff doesn't matter anymore. It's water off a duck's back, because you're so connected to what it is that you actually are inspired by. I hope you can see how passionate I am about this, because this is the whole work that I do. Because like you guys know my journey, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It took me a long time in my life to get beyond all the expectations and what I could perceive other people wanted from me in my life to actually get on a path of even giving myself permission to discover what the hell I wanted to do for me personally, what I want to do with my heartbeats. It took me over, 25 years just to get to the point of questioning, right? And having the courage to just address whose life am I actually living, whose expectations am I living toward, and actually go, oh, hang on a minute, I get to decide this? And even at that point, I had no idea exactly what I wanted to do with my life. All I knew at that point was I was on the wrong path and I needed to get off it so that I could free up the energy and the space to discover what it was that I really wanted, right? And so basically, that's why my life's mission has been born, which is to help people just like you and me, discover what you would want your life to be about. What would be worthy of your heartbeats? What would make you so fulfilled in your life? What would inspire you to grow yourself to the depth that you possibly can, to be the best possible human being that you have the potential of being in this lifetime, to contribute at your highest capacity, to actually love authentically and deeply, not just settle for surface level connections in your life, to look after this beautiful vehicle that you've been given, to go through your life with and look after that health, right? Like all these different angles on our lives, we're inspired to reach our highest potential in when we know what we want and we want it bad enough, right? And we're kind of either coming from that authentic inspiration in our lives, or we're coming from that fear of not being good enough, right? So if you're driven by fear of not being good enough, you don't start, you don't question, you don't change, you just want everything to stay the same, and you try and hold this identity for the world around you, because it's terrifying to actually acknowledge a deeper truth. But if you're driven, if you actually find something that will pull you through the challenges because you're so inspired by it, right? It actually enlivens your soul, then you will be the kind of person who actually does access your limitless potential. You discover, you create, you become your best self in this lifetime. Too many of us just get caught up in our everyday mediocre existence, and then another day's gone, then another day's gone. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll discover that tomorrow, whatever. And, 10, 20, 30 years go by, and then what have you done? And then you start to realize, shit, I'm over the halfway mark potentially here. Like, I got to do something. And I oftentimes are dealing with a lot of people in that boat who've created the, societal expectations standard of life, right? Where they've had the good job, they've got the family, they've got the white picket fence, and then still they're like, what, is this it? Like, I've done all the things that you're supposed to do, right? But it can't be it. Like, there's this emptiness within. And so basically I help people at that point, because the pain is enough at that point for them to go, is there something more? Can I look beyond my current sphere of what I've known? Like, could my life be more impactful, more meaningful, more fulfilling? And so I love helping people when they get to that point. My dream is that we can help people realize at a lot younger age. I would have loved to have known that, back when I was at school, hey, there's this totally other path. There's this multitude of different paths that you're not presented with at a young age, right? At school, like, you get this kind of set standard and you're like, oh, okay, I can be a doctor, a lawyer, I can be a tradie, I can be this, I can be that, whatever, and you don't really get presented with the options because a lot of them don't exist back then, like what I do in the world right now didn't exist actually when I was a kid, right? Because we didn't have the internet, for one, right? Or we didn't have the capacity that we do in this modern world, right? And so, a large chunk of the industry didn't even exist. So, it's more about, helping people realize that they can discover what it is that inspires them in their heart of hearts, and they can pursue that, right? And in fact, if you're not pursuing something that in your heart of hearts is inspiring to you and enlivening to you, guaranteed, unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but you're not going to reach your potential. You might create some external success or some instant gratification that you can keep repeating time and time again, but that's going to get Groundhog Day. That's going to get draining to your soul, and so at the end of the day, you have something that this world ultimately wants, and it's also what will fulfill you the most in this world. And your journey, if you don't know what that thing is, your number one priority should be around realizing what that is, discovering it, being open-minded to the possibilities, testing things out, seeking guidance from people who, know what that path can look like. A big part of the work that I personally do is using the framework of personality psychology to identify, and get clarity over how are people wired, right? It's not that they are going to have this total, like, that's it. Like, oh, because you're this type in personality, oh, that means that you're just the best in the world at this. No, it gives you a map. It goes, hey, so a lot of people before us have done a lot of amazing work in the world and continue to bring science that backs this stuff and the neuroscience of your personality to give you a map to help you fast track your ability to discover that thing that will authentically inspire you. Before I knew about this framework, I was pretty damn lost in my world. I was so good at turning up the voices and the judgments and the opinions in my external world and never listening to that inner knowing within, that like it was so valuable to me to find and discover a framework that like just laid it out, and I read through it and I studied it, and it was just so on point that ultimately it's been the best thing that I've ever come across in my life in order to give me certainty and clarity and direction, so that I can use all that time that it takes to discover the path. I can use that time actually, I've bought myself a bit of time here. Now I can direct it and funnel it into the things that I already know, the pathway I already know I'm inspired to go in. Like I said, it's not a question as to whether you're good enough. It's a question to whether you want it bad enough. And when you want it bad enough, you will become good enough, because you'll be dedicated to pushing through the challenges, the inevitable challenges, that deepest fear of not being good enough, and doing the work to become the human being that could create the thing that you most want in this life. All right, so that's where it starts, and we spend so much time learning over here and studying over here, but like when we spend our lives like in a job or in a career path or whatever we're doing, and we think, it's all going to pay off, but if it's not the thing that really intrinsically motivates you, inspires you from within, if you're just doing it for the money, or somebody thinks, oh, that's a really good job, oh wow, you're this or you're that, right? If you're just doing it for those external sources, guaranteed it's leading you off the path of fulfillment, and it's leading you towards the number one regret of the dying, which I bang to death, but it's so important, which I wish I had have had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than one I felt was expected of me. Don't be motivated by external praise and admiration for not living an authentic life. That stuff will come, when you are actually inspired by what you do, right? And it'll come in a way that will inspire others to step up and do the same. It's much more meaningful and impactful. So go for that option. It may seem harder, it may seem scarier, but the reason why it's scary to address this stuff is because of how much it matters, right? So ignorance is not bliss, as we know, right? Like you're gonna, if you don't choose to go where that scary stuff is and address and question why you're doing the things that you're doing and whether or not you're actually authentically inspired by your life, if you don't go there, you end up creating a life that's not your own, all right? And don't let that come to the point where it's too late to make a change, all right? Like that's why we can learn from people who have come before us, and that's why that book, Bronnie Ware, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, is one of the best that I highly recommend, because you can get the wisdom from people who've lived the whole timeline, right? And instead of you repeating the same old pattern and becoming another statistic, you get to learn from their experience and not make it your own. All right, I'm going to dive in and check in with you guys, see who's been able to join me. Have you got any questions or comments or words of wisdom that you want to contribute to today's message? Trying to spit it out too quickly. I would love to connect with you guys now. So I have got Madeline in the house, and Isa, and from North Carolina. I love it. Great to have you here. And Billy's here, and Bill's here. Cool. I love it. And Madeline, blessings from Sweden. Hope you're doing great. I really want to create a good economy so I do not need to stress every month about bills. Yeah, absolutely. So lovely to have you here from beautiful Sweden, a place that I hope to get to, hopefully in the not too far off future. And I am doing great. I hope you are as well. And yes, absolutely. I did a training for you guys that I presented at a personal growth summit. You can get it for free. It's on my page. I'll shoot you guys a link. But basically, I talk into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I think is foundational for every part of our growth. So Madeline, that's such a cool focus, because if we don't have our foundational needs of safety, security, finances, shelter, all that stuff taken care of, we can't get to the heights that I'm talking to you guys about right now. We can't even think bigger than our surface level problems, right? We need those taken care of, right? Before we can access a higher consciousness in terms of getting to what inspires you and being able to break through. So that's a really important message that you share to the conversation today, Madeline. You've got to be able to take care of the bills. You've got to take care of your health and the people that you care about and have shelter and all those sorts of things. And if you guys want to know a little bit more about how you can use the Maslow's hierarchy of needs to kind of see where have you got some holes, right? Where have you got some blind spots? How can we get into action, fill those up so that you can ultimately transcend to the top of the hierarchy, then you definitely want to check out that free training I did. So I'll drop a link after this, or let me know that if you want it and I'll just show you where it is. So that's awesome. And Paul's here, and Jerry, hello to you. Salute to you and everyone. Love the love that you're sharing there, Jerry. Always good to see you. And hello to you, AJ and Mike and Elf and Scott and Ubulus. Good to have you as well. And Jerry, our fire is burning from within us. This energy is our deepest emotion. To connect to it, our minds let it bloom. I love that. Yeah, tap into it, tap into that authentic inspiration and absolutely let it guide your mind, your actions, and all of it. Love that, Jerry. And Madeline, you are so beautiful inside out. Oh, really grateful listening to you. You are a light in the world. Oh, Madeline, you're touching my heart so much there. I so appreciate you, beautiful soul, and for your kind words. Thank you so much. Always very humbling. And Ken, I love listening to your guidance. Well, I'm very, very grateful that you are finding value in these messages, Ken. Thank you so much for letting me know. And Brian, I'm loving that this is making sense to you. And Brom's in the house. Cool. Love to see you. And Ulrike. Ulrich, I always butcher your name, but I like to listen to your topics. They inspire. Greetings from Germany. I'm so grateful that these messages are of value to you as well, Ulrich. And Germany is ultimately one of my favorite countries in the entire world. My granny is actually from Germany. So I love that. And Brian, greetings from New Jersey. As always, good to see you, Brian. And Verine's in the house too. Awesome. And Madeline, thanks, would be great with the link. Awesome. I'll shoot you the link as soon as I get off today's message, so you can dive into that free training. It's really important, and it will really just give you clarity, give you the map ahead, right, as to where you've got some blind spots that even if you just if you're listening to a message like this and you're like, yeah, I want to find my authentic inspiration, but you got some real stuff in your life that needs to be taken care of for your basic survival needs and so forth, you might be constantly feeling like you're never getting anywhere. You're trying to find that thing, but you've got all this other stuff that gets in the way, right? So this will help you just have the awareness, which is foundational to all growth and transformation. It will give you the awareness of where you are currently on the map and what your priorities are right now. Right? There's stuff that needs to be taken care of to fill up the holes so that you can then get to this mindset of accessing your limitless potential, right? To actualize your potential in this life and not stay stuck and mediocre. So love that, Madeline. I'll send the link over. And Heath is here as well. So good to have each and every one of you guys tuning in for today's message. You are so appreciated. I'm hoping, the sun looks like it'll probably be up now, so I can open the curtain. But wanted to squeeze this message in for you guys, and I really hope that it's been of value to you. And just remember, right, we all think we're not good enough, right? Just know that that's a deep universal human fear. There's nothing wrong with you. We all think there's something wrong with us, right? We all think we're not good enough in a multitude of different ways. But at the end of the day, it's not a question as to whether you're good enough. It's a question to whether you want it bad enough. And like I said, if you want it bad enough, you will become good enough. So the real important aspect here is to discover the very thing that you were most authentically inspired by, because that is the thing that you'll be inspired to do all the work that it takes to become great in that area and create what you ultimately want. All right. And Wendy, been really loving watching these lives. I'm so grateful to hear that, beautiful soul. Thank you so much for being here and checking in, and good morning to you. So that's my message for you. As always, I want to leave you with this. Go out there and live authentically, love deeply, and contribute meaningfully. Okay, that's what life is about. All right, and you've got this. All right, so thanks again to everybody who could join me live. You are so appreciated. You always set me on fire for my day. So thanks for contributing to this space and being part of this amazing community. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Much love.